street lights to headlines, culture and class. Craig breaks it down, future, present, and past. This is the world. Pop talk, real life, all in between. From the couch to the culture, the heart of the scene. Craig's got the mic, now let's talk, feel, and dream.
Welcome everybody to the World According to Craig, where we explore the ideas of shaping our lives and our communities and our future. I'm Craig Stanley. Today's going to be a special topic. We're going to dive into something that's transforming education as we know it, artificial intelligence in the classroom. Well, technology ain't new. Back in my day, I'm a non-traditional student, of course. Biggest concern to students was Googling answers and copying information from the internet. But today, AI can generate essays, summarize readings. It can also even tutor students in real time. So the question isn't whether technology can be used anymore, but how AI is changing ways students think and learn. Well, to get this shaped up, I got my panel right here today. I want y'all to introduce yourselves, name, grade classification, and major. That's what I was thinking about, major.
I guess I'll start us off. So my name is Juan Garcia. I'm a senior in my final semester, and I'm a public health student.
Hi, I'm Tayler Kelley. I am a senior, and I am a business management major.
I am Maritza. I am classified as a sophomore, and I am an education major.
Okay, cool. Well, let's get the show on the road. We're gonna start with the big question. Do y'all believe AI is enhancing education, or is it fundamentally changing how students learn? We're gonna start with Juan first.
Thank you, Craig. So I believe that AI has been a great tool in enhancing education. Of course, AI has been used in education for many years. It wasn't until the rise of generative AI that people started labeling it as such. Students have been using it to create practice exams, generate flashcards, or even correct their grammatical errors. Now, in regards to generative AI, I think it is definitely fundamentally changing how students learn. You can make it summarize long articles for you, ask it to quiz you for a class, stuff like that. Based on what I've experienced and what I've witnessed among my peers is that generative AI should be used with caution. I've seen many students develop a reliance so deep on it that suddenly, instead of looking over the essay for grammatical errors, is writing their entire essay for them. Now students are having AI do something as simple as generating a response to a discussion board that they could have done themselves in like 10 minutes. Of course, because it can do so many things for a student, I'm led to believe that there's an increase in students using generative AI to streamline their workflow. Now, you don't have to spend an hour reading a chapter of biology or skimming through research articles. Instead, you can just spend more time really developing that essay or PowerPoint presentation you're working on.
Okay, so basically you're talking about you're more focused, students that are just taking advantage of AI, just doing the homework for them instead of putting in the work, right?
Exactly.
Okay. How about you, Tayler? What are your thoughts on that?
I think AI is doing both. I mean, it's definitely enhancing education, but I also think that it's fundamentally changing how students learn. Because on one hand, students do have a lot faster access to information, and they have a better chance of being supported on what they are learning, which that can be really helpful to students. But at the same time, it's also shifting the process of learning, as now students aren't necessarily struggling through the information. They're just getting the answers as quickly as they can. So instead of improving their learning, they are actually reshaping how they're approaching it, how they're thinking about it, their problem solving skills, and even the effort in school. As when you give, let's just say, ChatGPT, if you give them something to answer, you get it immediately. So you don't actually have to really put in effort to know what you're learning.
So basically, people wants to just get the answer then and there.
Yes.
Well, okay. Your views, Maritza?
I guess my views are the same as what Juan and Taylor were saying, was that like it's a kind of a mixture of both. It's literally in our hands. Like we carry our phones everywhere we go, so it's like right there. So if we have a question, we search it up. It's easy access. Um, I know like during COVID, like we basically all used it during that time, and it definitely can be taken advantage of. I know like many students, they just search up the answers and they're just focused on the quickest way to find that information instead of actually doing critical thinking like we used to. Like we would have to get a textbook and actually read the material and then write what we got from that textbook. So I think it's useful, but it can't replace what we already had.
Okay, I understand. Like, see me, I'm like I said, I'm a non-traditional student. I haven't been in school in like over 20 years, so I know I look like I'm young, but I'm old. We didn't have, well, I was there for the beginning of the internet. I'm kind of new to this AI stuff. I was focused on textbooks, libraries, dial-up internet. That's how I had to study. But I see those were great responses that y'all are saying, but we're gonna dive it into a different area. We're gonna we're gonna do like a compare and contrast scenario between two students. All right. So your first student, we could call him Homer. Homer uses AI constantly, no matter what, brainstorming ideas, outlining essays, summarizing readings, getting homework help. He completes the assignments quickly and produces polished work. Work is flawless. I don't know how the teacher doesn't catch him, but hey, he gets the job done. On the other side, we have Peter. Goes to the library, researches everything, goes on the internet. He works through the problems independently. Takes a little bit more time, but he he focused on the material. So basically, here's the question right here. Who gets more knowledge in the long run? And does efficiency necessarily equal understanding? Uh, Juan, what's your take on that comparison?
Yeah, so I personally believe that Peter is learning more simply due to the fact that they're engaging with the material on a deeper level than Homer is and doing their own thinking. Now, of course, I don't think efficiency necessarily translates to understanding because student 8, Homer may have completed the work more efficiently, but did they really learn anything? No, Homer isn't just outsourcing the work to AI, but they're also outsourcing their thinking, and that's where the discrepancy lies. I like to liken this to whenever you're baking cookies. So, if you bought cookies in a package, you lie them out on a baking sheet and bake them versus preparing the ingredients and making the dough yourself and then baking it. Can you truly say you made the cookies? Homer didn't do any work whatsoever. It's the same thing with AI art because if you give the AI a prompt and it generates something and you call that art, you don't want to call yourself an artist. You didn't do anything except type in a prompt versus an actual artist who's applying all these techniques when sketching it out, doing the drawing and coloring it, painting it.
Okay, like I see, you said like about art. you generate art, but would that be like considered brainstorming for the AI to complete that artwork, since that is from the mental state of the individual that's using AI?
I wouldn't say so, just because, the beauty of art, in my opinion, is that it's personal and it should show your creativity. But whenever you're outsourcing the creativity itself and the effort of actually creating the medium, then in my opinion, you didn't do any work at all.
Oh, okay. I see where you're coming from. All right, Taylor, from a classroom or student engagement perspective, how do you see this play out?
Um, Honestly, I think both students are learning, but I think they're learning in very different ways. So I think student A is definitely being a little bit more efficient time-wise, and I'm sure AI is probably being a little more organized when it's helping them learn stuff. But I also don't believe that they're probably fully processing the information that they are learning or the material. Now, comparing that to student B, they're definitely more engaged in a deeper way, which long term will lead to a better understanding of the material, even if it is taking more time. Now, ideally, the best approach would just be kind of balancing it. I mean, obviously, with the newer generation, using AI, it's a tool of support. So it's what it is. It's not meant to replace actual learning, it's really just supposed to be there to support you. And efficiency, it doesn't always mean understanding, which I do understand that as well. And especially if the students aren't necessarily actively engaging with the content. So that's kind of I think both students are still learning, but I think one is probably learning a little bit more long-term efficient than the other one.
Okay. I see your views on that. Maritza, do you think access to AI could widen or narrow educational gaps?
I think it might be a mixture of both. I think it just depends on how it's being distributed in schools, and how it's like teaching or like how effectively they're being taught it. Um, some some students could have more access to use it, and they know how to use it well, while some others might not have that access to it. So it's just, if I guess it's like if the students, I guess it just has the potential to reduce inequality, but only if like schools make access and training a priority, just like helping students out with it.
Okay. Well, see, in my opinion, I think both students, they're both learning, but I
Mhm.
think they're just learning different ways. Like Taylor said, Homer does benefit from the efficiency. He uses AI for brainstorming, outlining, and summarizing help. It helps them organize their thoughts quickly and produce more polished work. It can be helped, like you said, Taylor, it does help for time efficiency and understand complex topics. But if he relies on AI without engaging the material, his understanding might be limited. Just like, oh, I learned this from AI, but I don't know what this truly means. But on the other hand, Peter does take more time, engaging deeply, going to the library, surfing on the web, all that good stuff. By doing the manual work, he's doing the problems independently. He's using critical thinking skills, problem solving, long-term retention for the material. So basically, like if finals come up, Homer can't remember half the stuff he knows because he did it through AI. But Peter, since he put in the work in the library and on the internet, he has that knowledge stored in his head. He's more likely to get a better grade on his final. That kind of struggle just often leads to a more strongful, meaningful understanding. But in the long run, I say Peter got the advantage because he got more understanding and But it don't mean Homer's learning. Efficiency doesn't always equal understanding. It depends on how the tool is used, like y'all said earlier. Best approach is balance, using AI as a support tool while engaging critically with the content. If you combine both of them together, hey, I think that would be a perfect thing, you know? So next thing we're gonna talk about is like the pros and cons of AI in the classroom. One of the biggest benefits is efficiency, like we said earlier. An instructor can generate lesson plans and feedback more quickly, and students can receive immediate academic support. All right, Taylor, have you seen AI improve accessibility and differentiation for students with diverse learning needs?
Um, Honestly, I think it's a good improvement. I mean, especially like with students with different learning needs, because I can say as someone who has struggled when I mean, not in college necessarily, but when I was in high school or middle school, I struggled with certain learning things when it came to writing, especially. I was never very good with punctuation and grammar and all that. But I mean, for students in school who might struggle with reading, that's a good example as well. AI can simplify it for them and it can summarize the text. And if they need extra support with it, it can give them a step by step explanation that maybe the teacher can't fully explain very well to them. Um, AI also goes at the student's pace, which is important for someone who maybe isn't very quick to gather the information they're being taught. It's because it's important to know that obviously not everyone does learn the same, and they definitely don't learn at the same speed. So in that sense, AI can make more education more inclusive and personalized for each student.
Okay. Juan. So AI is often described as a 24/7 tutor. How significant is it for students who may not have that academic support at home?
Yeah, so I'd say this is very significant. Of course, not everyone has academic support at home. I know, and many students at Tarleton in particular are first generation college students, or they have parents who don't speak English, or maybe they have issues such as, internet access. And not only might students not have consistent access to academic support at home, but also at the university itself. I know many students work part-time jobs, even full-time jobs, or are commuters, or simply have to attend classes all day. And this causes them to be unable to make time to meet with the professor during their office hours, or attend AI sessions in the evening, or even attend tutoring services. So having 24/7 access to a tutor in AI is very much significant. Like Taylor said about personalization, AI can focus on you and not on an entire class. It can offer a variety of different teaching methods, unlike a tutor or professor who has limited teaching means. And of course, it can be used to explain things on a deeper level than a professor or tutor might be able to do because of time constraints or knowledge.
Okay. All right, Maritza, earlier you were talking about how we were using AI, how most people were using AI during the COVID-19 pandemic. Since that time frame back in March 2020, I said 2020 three times, oh my goodness. Since March of 2020, since the beginning of all that, technology has become deeply embedded in education. How has this shift influenced the addition of artificial intelligence?
Um, since since COVID, I think it like really sped up AI. Um, Schools just became more comfortable using that technology for their everyday learning, and it made it easier to introduce it to the classrooms, um, because they were already using like an online platform for it. So it was just natural to use it as support. Um, it's shifted. The shift has been positive, because it could provide personalized help, like instant feedback, maybe like a different type of learning for the students, and just making education more efficient and accessible for students.
Okay. Well, of course, with every innovation comes challenges. One concern is over relying on AI. Some research suggests that students who rely heavily on AI, they may show reduced cognitive engagement. This raises an important question. Are students learning or they're outsourcing their thinking? Juan, what are your thoughts on maintaining critical thinking skills in an AI-driven environment?
So I believe the key to maintaining critical thinking skills in an AI-driven environment is to ensure that the students are they're in control of their underlying thought processes and the decision-making processes. You have to have an established baseline of knowledge so that you can understand what the AI is discussing, and more importantly, so that you can recognize any biases or misinformation that AI may recite to you. We have to shift from simply generating a response and being content with what we received to evaluating the responses AI gives us so we can ensure that it's accurate and so we can be insightful in our work. I know I have a course right now that we use AI to generate responses to a question. And we asked AI a question about a certain topic, and what we do is we have to write an essay using the responses from AI and our textbook to prove if AI, basically to prove AI wrong or to prove AI right. So I think an approach like that uses AI in conjunction with the course material and really looking at what AI is giving us, I think that's a very effective way to help maintain and build more critical thinking skills.
Okay. Tayler, I know you heard about academic integrity. We hear it all the time through our professors. Don't use AI. Only use AI for this. Only use AI for that. How do you think educators ensure that AI supports learning rather than replacing it?
I think educators need to be focusing on using AI as a support tool rather than just a replacement for student work. One way is designing the assignments that require personal thinking, reflection, or just real world application. Just making it to where AI can't fully replicate what it's asking them to do. So teachers, they can also be very transparent on what is allowed when it comes to AI and how it should properly be used. It's just really about creating guidelines and encouraging students to use AI responsibly and still holding them accountable for their own learning skills.
Okay. Well, Maritza, privacy is also a major concern, especially with laws like FERPA. What should schools consider, what schools and universities, what should they consider when integrating AI tools in the educational landscape?
I think they should look at like the privacy and like the security of students. Um, just I think like one major risk is student data that could be collected, stored, or even shared without their fully like them fully understanding how it's being used. Um, so it could like have a concern of like data breaches, like where grades and like personal details could be exposed. Um, I know that sometimes AI systems can have like built-in biases, which can impact certain students. So they should just look at making sure that it's protected and that students are that they're transparent with students and families about like how these tools are being used.
Okay. Well, looking ahead, AI could significantly shape the future of the workforce by enhancing digital literacy and productivity. However, it may also reduce memory retention and independent problem solving skills. This is going to be a roundtable discussion right here. what do you think will be the most significant long-term impact on artificial intelligence on students? Start with Juan first.
Great. So I'd say the most significant long-term impact of AI on students would definitely be how they study, how they brainstorm, and how they simply execute their work. So you're right to say that we might lose some memory retention or independent problem-solving skills, but I think that the trade-off is that as education begins to or continues to integrate AI, that we'll see a shift towards high-level synthesis. So I think students will stop being expected to know every fact and instead become architects in a sense. Instead, they will know how to connect and validate the information and execute the information that we know. Students won't have to know facts because AI can provide that in an instant, and more often than not, just as accurately. However, the real danger is something like cognitive atrophy. Students are using AI as some sort of final answer machine rather than a partner or a tool. The biggest impact won't be productivity, but instead there will be a decline in the critical thinking needed. And so I know people always treat AI as some type of all-knowing being, as a mirror on the wall. And we have to avoid that so that we ensure that we ourselves are still able to think for ourselves. A great example I can think of is a simple email. I know whenever I'm on Gmail, I know there's like that thing to like draft the email itself. You don't even have to write your own emails anymore. And I know a lot of people are using that and they can't even write their own emails now. They always got to go through AI to do it for them.
Okay. Tayler?
I think one of the biggest long-term effects will be how students balance convenience with critical thinking. So AI obviously definitely is going to make it more efficient and digitally skilled, which is important for some future workplaces. But there's also a risk that, the students, they're going to rely on it too much and they're going to lose some of their independence with their problem solving skills. So I think the biggest impact will be whether students are actually able to learn how to use AI as a tool to enhance their thinking and enhance how they're actually doing their work, or if they're just going to use it as a shortcut that replaces all of that.
All right, Maritza?
I think the long-term impact of AI, I mean, I feel like we're already seeing that in students. I mean, some students don't know how to read or write, which is a kind of a big problem today because we have kids that are way behind in the school system because they don't know how to do those things. I think it'll just change how students will think and learn. They'll just rely on just finding that information quickly and not really going in and looking at like the actual like the textbook or like actually doing critical thinking. But I feel like it could also do good because just like it's there for convenience. If you have like a problem and you like look at the textbook, you can go in and ask AI, like, can you maybe explain this a little bit better in a different way? So it's a helpful tool, but you need to be careful and not like abuse it.
Okay, I definitely understand about that. It seems clear that AI isn't inherently good or bad. It's all about how it's used. Ideally, AI should serve as a support tool, learning assistant, and a way to differentiate instruction, but it should never be replace critical thinking. It should never replace critical thinking or teacher expertise. What strategies can educators implement to ensure balanced integration of AI? And this is just going to be open forum. Response be about a minute long.
Um, For me, I think educators they can start by setting clear expectations on what they expect when it comes to AI usage and incorporating it into how they're learning or even into lessons. There's also the fact of I think students need to be taught how to use AI because there is a correct way to use AI. It's I mean, I was taught how to use AI for business proposals and all of that. AI can be a great tool as long as you understand how to actually use it without just taking the short and easy way out and getting an answer. So I think educators should be teaching their students how to use AI, especially considering it's becoming a very big part of the work world, school world, and just in the everyday average person uses it for literally everything.
Okay, one.
Yeah, so the idea I have is for make sure that the courses include sort of in-class presentations or require assignments to include details from the course textbook if applicable, because AI can't present on your behalf, nor will AI cite the textbook for you, unless you're pasting the entire book and asking it to do so, but even then, it often fails to do so accurately. And of course, going back to that one example I had mentioned earlier about the course using AI and having the students write an essay proving AI right or wrong, I do think that was very effective way to help develop critical thinking skills and also teach us how to use AI effectively while acknowledging the nuance of how AI is simply not going to be accurate all the time.
Okay, Maritza.
I think to follow off with what Taylor said, I know like in my math class, like he lets us use AI, but in a way of um giving us um like step by step, I don't know how to describe it. Um just like little steps to get us to where we need to go. Instead of just looking up the whole answer, we do it with steps, and it actually does help. So I think that's one way that educators can implement that into classrooms.
All right, so all right, as we look forward to the future, let's imagine classroom 10 years from now, class of 2036. Will AI become the calculator of this generation? Should schools regulate it or fully embrace it? What skills will it matter most moving forward? Your thoughts? Everyone?
I honestly think that they will probably be as normal as calculators are today. I mean, it'll just be a part of the classroom, in my opinion. Schools are will likely just kind of regulate it at first, but over time they'll shift towards like teaching students how to use it effectively, and it'll probably be one of the more important skills that they'll be learning compared to like their critical thinking, creativity, and ability to evaluate the information because obviously those are things that AI can't fully replace. So I think students are going to be working along AI very like dependently in the future.
Anybody
So
else?
I think schools should take a balanced approach to it. I think they should embrace it, but also make sure to regulate its use because you don't want to accidentally reward bad behavior or misuse of AI, reward people who are abusing the AI and making AI do all the work for them. And I believe that moving forward, that creativity and critical thinking skills are what's most important because creativity in itself, in my opinion, is what separates man from machine. And of course, critical thinking because you have to think beyond the information present in order to synthesize something new.
Maritza?
I have to agree with what my classmates said. Like it's it's kind of it kind of is like a part of like who we are, and I feel like it's just always going to be there. It's we carry it everywhere we go, so it's just going to be more integrated in our everyday life.
I see where y'all coming from. I know it is going to be the future. AI is going to take over everything. It's it's kind of like the calculator to me. It didn't replace the math that we learned. It just enhanced it a little bit. Uh, but I don't think schools should strictly regulate or completely embrace AI without boundaries. There should be a balanced approach, of course. Like we learn in the classroom, hey, used for spelling, punctuation, whatnot. We just can't use it as a crutch. And like you said, Maritza, we're in a world where information is in our fingertips. It's just, it won't just be about how students know, but how they evaluate and apply the knowledge. It's, I think 2036 is not going to be defined by technology, but how well prepared students to think, how it will prepare, how basically how it's going to prepare students to think, connect, and lead to this great beyond of AI and technology and whatnot. All right, so I do want to let you know we are getting to the closing part of the show. This has been an incredible conversation. We learned how AI is transforming education. It's highlighting both promise and its challenges. But one thing is clear, AI is neither entirely good or bad, but it amplifies the strengths and weaknesses already presented in our education system. The goal ain't is to choose between AI or professors or teachers. It's to find a way for humans and technology to work together to enhance our learning. Do you guys agree?
Yes.
Definitely.
Well, I do want to thank Juan, Tayler, and Maritza for sharing your insights. And I want to thank everybody for listening, catching to the world according to Craig. Like I always say, stay sharp, stay seen, keep your mind open, and your dreams supreme. Till next time. See y'all later.
Hit my goodbye music, baby.
Yeah, yeah. You've been vibing with the world according to Craig. Real girl talk all life, from soul to street. Till next time, stay sharp, stay sassy. Keep your mind open and your dreams supreme.
New episodes every week. Follow, share, subscribe, tell your crew.